I knew there was something wrong because of just the idea that kids loved break time. So, it was a normal thing for kids to shout when the bell rang. So there was a bell that rang for the whole school. It was rang from probably like the headmaster's office or something like that. And when it rang, you would hear kids, break time, yeah, celebration, So it rang and he was still saying a few words, and I remember his name. His name was Mr. Cowboy. See, I'm not just making this story up. I know his name and I remember the girl's name. I don't remember any other encounter with that girl. I remember that her mom was a police officer, in what area was that? In Indola though. No, man. I don't know, but it was like she was a policewoman and her name was Salome. Indola Modern Primary School, So she shouted, break time. You know what I'm saying? That was smart of her. She recognized the bell. And this is grade 1. See, that's smart. She recognized the bell and she knew what time it was. Yeah. This is grade 1. And then he goes, shut up, Fusek, Fimichene, which means shut the fuck up. Fusek is what? Stupid. Yeah, get out. It's a stupid. You stupid. Then he insulted her or he demeaned her for not having front teeth. That's what Fimichene means. Bemba word, I believe. So that was demeaning. She recognized the bell. She knew it was break time. Okay. And what happened after he said that? She sat down and everybody laughed. The whole class laughed. I didn't laugh because it wasn't funny. If I had the Superman strength, I'd have whipped that nigga up because it demeaned her. So much so that it registered in me. Because if she was laughing, then I wouldn't probably have that. But it demeaned her, so it registered in me. And that's the thing. So that was my grade 1 class. Okay. That was like probably my first time in school. Okay. So what I got from there was simple. He wasn't there to uplift people. This whole thing wasn't there to uplift people. It also put fear in me. Like if I express myself, I'm gonna get a full sec. I'm gonna get that kind of thing. He's gonna laugh at me. He's gonna highlight maybe a bad shoe that I have or a bad, school uniform or something. Like it's gonna demean me. You get what I'm saying? So, and she was cute. I probably went to her and said, it's fine, blah, 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 because I was like this hero kid. I always took care of those kids who kind of like were left out, Yeah, I was the kunta kid, my nigga. So, yeah, but later on, she liked me later on in life. Yeah. Look at that smile. But the point I'm trying to stress though is that it was demeaning. And I think it did instill fear in her. And it did instill fear probably in me. Because it's like, nah, you don't say that. When it rings, don't say that. And that was my grade 1 class. Okay. Probably even other kids in the class who were not bullies. And by the way, this is a private primary school in the center, in the CBD. Okay. So 90% of the community of the kids there were kids, who you can say are middle class, well-to-do kids, and then 10% maybe is the kids like from bad neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? So you can tell like the 90% of that classroom that laughed was those who were well-to-do. They weren't scared of being picked on for their shoe or something like that, So I'm just saying that I realized from that very moment that it was not place of uplifting. And when you have a parent telling you that they're spending so much money to get you educated and you go to such a place and you see the person can't give you the tools, they can't enable you to see what they see or how they see, but you're supposed to get educated. That was for me like the first time the flaws of education showed up. And from that time I didn't want to go to school because it's like, what's this for? It demeans me. Like a whole morning of craziness. Whole morning of not being myself. Yeah, you only breathe at break time. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to go to school. Now, I don't know, but why were the kids so excited about break time? It gives me a statistic of how much, what else the kids in other classes were experiencing. And that's the other ideology that I built, that a lot of kids learned a lot during socialization, break time. That's where they learn a lot. Most of them learn sociology, psychology, big programs that do not exist in the primary category of school. But those are skill sets they pick up. And then later on we say, oh, this one has good communication skills. This one has that. But we think it's a skill set. We think it's a talent. I think it's a talent. It was born with it, and most of the kids, even like in my primary school, if I remember very well, they failed most of the programs, but most of them were so good at communication skills. Those who passed were not good at communication skills. It means they got successful in the program. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. School throughout is like that. Those who fail are good at everything else. Those who pass are those who made it in the institutionalization.
I love this phrase, able to think in a million ways.
Yeah. So those who failed are able to think in a million ways. Those who pass the exam are those who are narrow. Yes, they're mono. They've succeeded in this monopoly, because it's a monopoly because the teacher doesn't want you to learn. So they are meant to go and sit in that institution or that office or that company or that organization and just do what they're told. One thing, those who failed have the ability to change, to transform the world, to create better systems, because they've developed those skill sets. And that's what education should be. Of course, the exposure is not much. So many have the ability to interact, but do not have the ability to interact with the earth. So exposure is important. Exposure to plants, crops, everything we're dealing with as humanity. So if school systems were on farms and visiting industries and seeing how societies operate, we would see a lot of genius failed school personalities, because they have the right exposure. But when they're in the school system, when they fail, they might still have the ability to transform things, but if they don't find themselves, they don't find that exposure, they're never ever going to get to feel confident enough to feel like, we can purify the water. But these are the characters that get books. They get books and they're like, oh, I got a well, how do I purify water? So anyway, I'm just trying to say though that was me right from the beginning, and that's where me and school went southside. Sorry. That's where me and school went opposite ways, because I didn't like the institution. And then second grade, I had this teacher who used to come from the same area I was staying, but just a little, a west side neighborhood, down the road. I call it down the road, or up the road, next to where I used to stay. So the thing is, he knew my parents. He used to see me when I used to come to class. So he gained a sense of confidence. Probably he saw the way parents treated me, or something. So much so that he gained so much confidence, he used to mistreat me. I'm not gonna say pick on me. He used to mistreat me. He used to give me those dust beatings. I don't know if you know those.
Yeah, where you
put your fingers together and you whip. I used to get those a lot. So much so that I used to try to cut my nails because I used to get hurt. So much so that my hands would be shivering going back home. That's, maybe someone beat you in the morning, you just like can't write.
Shit, and you came to school to learn and write.
School became a hell in second grade for me, to be honest. It became a hell. I was never a troublemaker. He made me a troublemaker. When you get abused so many times and you ain't done nothing wrong, you feel like, okay,
at least I should do something wrong so that the beatings are...
But even that, I always had this place of, I'm not that kid. I'm not that number one kid, because I wasn't the wealthiest. I wasn't coming from a wealthiest family in town. There were wealthy kids in class. So you gotta shut up, you're gonna embarrass yourself. They know a lot more things than you do. So I wasn't the loudest kid. I was not the loudest kid, but I always was on top of the list when it came to trouble. And I wasn't a big guy either. I was a tiny kid, but not the tiniest, but I was the tiny kid.
So was he like the only teacher?
Yeah. No, usually some classes switched teachers, but whatever they decided, they said, maybe the first teacher died, but no, he was still there. The thing is, I went with him from second grade to about sixth grade. So third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, I was with him. That's like, I don't know how many years. Every single day of the week, sitting down in his classroom. People came and went, I was still in his classroom. Of course, there was some other faces, but I'm just saying that I used to be whipped for no good reason. If I failed at something, he'd probably make me stand in front of the classroom or something. The thing is, he had confidence. Looking at it now, when I look back at it, first of all, he was a miserable person, because I could see his forehead. He's just this guy with like lines on his hair. He was just a miserable guy. That's one thing I could remember. And even his own kids who were at that same school, I had a moment probably of interacting with them. They were very, very quiet, fearful kids. So, and that time there was corporal punishment. Corporal punishment existed. The idea of beating up a kid, a pupil when they mess up, that thing hadn't been abolished. I was getting beaten like crazy. Anyway, I'm just trying to say that I went through a very tough time between 2 and 6. And so that just solidified the first thing I had experienced in grade 1. It just made me hate school. I didn't even remember learning anything between grade 2 and grade 6. I don't remember anything. Really. I don't remember, you're like, oh, what did you learn? And I maybe used to pass so that I don't get beaten. And I had so many encounters. You ask any of these guys, sisters and whatever, they'll tell you he was a troublemaker in primary school. The famous name is Mr. Sangweni. That was his name. I still remember that character. But the thing is, I never did anything wrong, and I had so many situations where he just. Another thing is, I couldn't come back home and say, this happened to me, because there were so many moments where something happened. Like here's an account where this kid, this bully, so this big guy in class, his name was I don't know his last name, but his name was Piri. The dad used to sell like at a tuck shop. Later on, I learned that he was from Chiprokusu, that neighborhood. He picked on me one time and he drew something in my book. He drew sex. Okay. So a wireframe of a male, a wireframe of a female, and then he put a doodle in between. And I didn't know that was in the book. And then when I gave it to the same teacher to mark for whatever, he found the thing and he called me. Then he showed the whole class, look at this, and everybody laughed. And it's like, I don't know what is that. I didn't even know what that was. Yes, I didn't know what that was. I got whipped. I got whipped. I got beat up. He had a hose pipe. He came with a hose pipe for me. A green hose pipe. I got whipped. And then he told my parents that look at what he did.
After you said you didn't know anything.
I denied. He actually asked me to accept, or else he would not stop beating me. Wow. So I said, okay, I'm the one who did it. That's when my spirit changed. I remember that moment, because before that I was humble. I was very humble. I was trying to hide away every single time, because it's like, I don't know, I don't want to embarrass myself. But after that moment and people laughing at me, my spirit just changed. Like, look, I don't give a fuck, So I didn't even know who did it. But I remember that day that he reported it to my parents, and my parents beat me up. So he had whipped my ass with a hosepipe. Came home, I got whipped again. I got whipped on the bombs, and the same bombs. Bombs are solid. And that's where, I feel like my relationship with my dad just went south, because it's like I didn't feel safe. I feel like I had
tried to explain to say I didn't do it.
I said I didn't do it. Couldn't believe the guy, So next day I went to class, and I think, he asked me to sit in front. I became a problem child, So anything I did, I got beat up. Anything.
You the guy who was drawing naughty stuff.
I drew sex. I don't know what age that was, but I drew something naughty. Then after some time, the big guy admitted, I'm the one who drew it in the book.
He came to tell you.
Yeah, and I told him, I started crying. I think I started crying because I was scared of him. Okay. And he's like, what you gonna do? And then I went bananas. Okay. I beat him, I slapped him, I jumped onto him, I flipped tables. People tried to stop me and whatnot, because I was scared of everybody. I was scared of my dad, I was scared of the same teacher, what he's going to do to me. But this guy had just made me go through all this crazy stuff.
And then he's telling you what you going to do.
Yeah, what you going to do. Yeah, and he was big, yeah. So, man, I whipped him. I beat him. I remember smashing his head to the thing, everybody. And I was tiny. I was a very tiny kid. Wow. So he came back, I was reported, and I got beat up again. I got beat up by the same inkonya in my head. Inkonya means what in English? Teacher, he reported me. I came home, I was whipped. So that was my school experience, I think that was the time I probably went to the bathroom and I started bleeding, from my nose. And I just realized, like, look, this thing is not, there's nobody you can trust. Nobody I can't change my opinion of people, So my heart just became crazy. I just but I couldn't do nothing. So I just have to fit in, but I know who's his friend, who's not, I actually bleeded. He hit me too many nkonyas in the head, knocked me so many times in the head. Yeah, I went to the bathroom and started bleeding. That probably could have been like 3rd or 4th grade, if I'm not mistaken. Because 5th grade, I knew what my position was. It's like, I'm not gonna play around here. These are not my people. I don't even know who they are.
I'm just here because I have to.
I'm just here because I have to. And so that's where my thinking also changed. Because then it's like, what makes this guy the teacher?
Right.
It wasn't actually the grade 1 teacher who made me think like I was this other guy. Like, what makes this guy be a teacher? Like, what's
he doing?
Yeah, what's so important about him? Yes, he's old, but what if I can understand the same things he does? And what's this? Because I feel like I should just stop. So there were so many times of being dragged out of the bathroom because I locked myself up in the bathroom. I'm not going today. You have to go. just break the door, early in the morning. There were fights early in the morning, because I didn't want to go to school. Yeah, so that's primary school for me, and then I just had a breather when grade 6, he was no longer there. That was like the first time I became a bright person again, because this time around I had like different teachers who had like some different manners, but I was still keeping my position, not to cross anybody. But it was the first time I had friends. I'd open up and chat with people in class, but this character of me of not liking school had already developed. And then second, also I had learned what the school system was about, preparing you for something, probably ask somebody, I don't know. At that time I just figured out that it was about passing. Just keep on passing, go through the grades, you're gonna be fine, and even if you fail again, you're still gonna make it through the grades, so you're gonna be fine. So I knew that. So but of course at home I used to get beaten for not passing, so I needed to push myself. Between 6th and 7th grade, which is like the primary exam period, I remember I had this space of freedom, make friends, but I still got in trouble. There's these big bullies were playing with somebody's watch. Then they threw the watch to me, and this smaller guy just hugged me and he cried. And I was like, I wasn't part of this. And he was just crying. And I was like, you tell them that I wasn't part of this. He didn't do that. I remained the whole day. Class was ending at 12:30, I believe. I had to kneel on concrete floor in the sun, the same sun we have outside, until...
Like getting this hot.
Yeah, I mean, really, maybe the sun has gotten a lot hotter, but it was hot. I hadn't drunk any water. I was like with my hands lifted up.
From what time?
From 12:30 until 16:30. So it was 16:30 until my mom had knocked off. So I lifted my hands. It was crazy, and if I dropped them, I got whipped. So...
around, peeping on you.
Yeah, some teacher. So the thing with that boy is that he was a very wealthy kid, so is I had a lot of respect at school. The parents maybe used to tithe maybe to I don't know, but they just had this reverence. I remember when the parents came to pick him up, it's like, this boy was beating him up, because that's what happened. He cried, so they said he beat him up. So it's like they were going to prove a point, but I didn't do nothing. I just showed up, I saw this, and I was actually trying to save him, you know what I'm saying? And then they threw the watch in my hands, and he hugged me, and he started crying, and I'm like, hey, here's the watch. And he just kept on crying, I was like, dude, here's the watch, and then everybody started saying, beat him up, you beat him up. No, they were silly. They were just they were wondering like, why is he crying? Yeah, I don't know how it all played out, but they all were like, you've beat him up, and I was like, nah, and I think the teacher asked like, what's wrong? And then they started lying on me that I beat him up. Everybody knocked off from 12 to about 16. That was like 6th grade or 7th. I mean, 6th grade. Yeah, I just had my hands up.
Lifting hands up for 10 minutes.
It was crazy. I was sweating, dizzy, dizzy. I could have passed out, I could have passed out. I remember when I was standing up, I couldn't walk because my knees were just like burnt,
But I bet whoever came.
Yeah, my mom came and she was like, problem, child, pushed me in the back a bit, and I got beat up. When I arrived home, I got beat up. My dad beat me up. It burnt my soul. I was like, it just burnt my soul. But I had gotten a lot of this, so much so that I got to a point where I just like, it's part of life, part of my life. Just, so what, like, so yeah, but I hated that situation that happened, and I remember it because again, it left me broken. It shaped me, But anyway, late primary school, I had this moment of just switching classes. So there were 3 classes. There was like a Dow class, those who scored less on the test. And then there were those who scored median, in the middle. And then there were those who were the brighter ones. So they separated the brighter ones from the middle ones to the, useless ones. I had these friends, we were became friends. And I thought like it was all about socialization. For me, that's what school was. Socialization was about meeting friends, getting to know each other. But it just so happened that it wasn't that, because those guys moved away from that class and they passed the test, passed better than me. So they moved to another class and they started.
you.
they didn't want to chill with me. They started laughing, so I didn't like that. I was like, wow, I thought this was
So
more
you loved each other.
I thought this was family. This was like community, So I remained in the Dow class. They moved to the medium class, and they just became useless. They became stupid. They were laughing at me. Ha ha ha, don't chill with the useless kids. I guess it was a culture propitiated by the school teachers and everything. Then my attitude changed. Like, oh, you think this is hard? You think this is hard? So I remember passing from that class to the medium class, and they were like, yo, and I was like, they can't be talking. I'm just here to shame you.
Right.
Like, blah 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 blah. The next test, I was in the first class. They got ashamed. They felt so ashamed because I literally passed my test to just be in the middle class. That's like you have a test. It's like 100%. If you score 50, you're gonna be in the middle class. If you score below maybe 30,
you decided to be in their class first.
Exactly.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? That's the first time I really tested my mind. And that's the first time I was like, wow, I can really do this shit. So I scored 50. I remember like I could count like answers. Like these answers are correct. I'm gonna score around 45 to 50. And it was 45 to, I think I got like 46. Yeah. And I was in the middle class. And I couldn't talk to them because they stopped talking to me. They traded me. That was in Sunset, part of them. And that's where my relationship with him in primary school kind of phased out because I had this guy. He was in my class probably like from grade 1 maybe, So anyway, then they thought I was joking. I moved to the first class. Yeah, they thought I was joking. You got lucky, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, you see. Next test I came, I had was in the 90s. Yeah, I was in the next class. They remained, all of them, like retarded. Yeah, so it was just useless. That's like school is useless. What is all this for? So the division, I didn't like that. Yeah, like what's the whole purpose of this? I thought it's like collaboration. Yeah, we just laugh at each other. That's what this is about. Yeah, anyway, I didn't even want to pass the whole final exam. I just didn't have the energy for it. If I couldn't write it, if I had a choice to not write it, I wouldn't have wrote my primary final exam. Because it's like, so what? So what then what? But I went to this school, and again, so this is my junior high, 8th grade, and I entered the class I had studied before, going to class, reporting to school, junior high. Yeah, 7th grade actually got me to see what the grade school was like. So what people learn in high school. I had this guy who was so brainy. Actually, when I moved to the first class, I started talking to some of these brainy kids, and it's like, they had cultures, they had attitudes. They used to study stuff that's complicated, Pythagoras, whatever. It's like, this is not grade 7 stuff. Like, why are you studying this? It's like, yeah, I just want to be intelligent. I want to be number 1 in the country. They had all those kind of ambitions. It's like, oh, okay. That's it. But anyway, chilling with them made me, engage with that stuff. Like literally, it's like, okay, maybe that's the purpose of this. So when I went to 8th grade anyway, I entered the class and I had studied a little bit of science pre-class. And I remember sitting with this guy named Johnson, and this lady teacher told me, she asked a question in the class. And so nobody was able to answer. And then I lifted my hand and I answered it was correct. And then they all clapped. The new boy is cute and intelligent. They were laughing and all that. Like, you shouldn't be seated with this loser, doubt person. He's gonna make you doubt. That came from the teacher. And everyone was laughing. Long story short, he became a best friend. So they didn't know who they were talking to. But that was another second experience, like I had in first grade. Yeah. So this time was even way explicit. They all laughed. Actually, no, she moved me by force to sit with this girl named Comfort. She was like one of the smartest girls. But anyway, later on, I moved and I started sitting with a guy. He became a best friend. I laughed crazy, But 8th grade, that was another bad experience. And then I chose art as my option. My dad didn't want it because it's like, nah, this is Dow. It's for Dow people. Should have chosen accounts or something like that. Yeah, so I was like, okay. No, at that time I didn't know that. Like, I need more time for myself. That's actually how I chose art. Like, I just need time to think, time to, review what I'm doing. Because when I'm at art class, I was like, I can think about why I'm here, stuff that I want to do. instead of somebody telling you, repeat after me, bonjour. It's like, dude, I don't want to learn French. I could learn those things later. But I had this complexity though, in terms of choosing the class I wanted. Because I remember even what is the reason? I probably asked the headmaster there, like, yo, so this class, why do you have technical drawing and art separated? Like, I remember asking that person that kind of question. It's like, if you just want this class, choose this class. If you want choose this class. It's like, okay, no purpose. It's fine. Let me just go in this other class. Because I really didn't want to end up, I realized this is what you're going to become. So I was very careful in my junior high, 8th grade, to choose the things that I wanted. Things that resonated with me. But to hear such, because I wanted one subject in one, I actually was like debating, like, can I attend both classes? But it wasn't possible. It's like, just choose. If you want this class, choose this one. If you want this one, choose this one. It's like, no, but what if I want this subject and I want the other subject, So I wanted technical drawing. I was into architecture, design. Yeah, and I also love art. So art teaches you the textures, the color palettes. And that's the stuff I wanted. I wish I could mix my own classes, my own subjects in junior high school, but it wasn't like that. So anyway, just had to sit in that same class. He became a good friend of mine. We chilled. He was crazy, but he became smart though. He became way smart. He was smarter than me. Yeah, I did turn up his confidence, but he was smart though. He was really smart. He was a JW. Man, he was smart. The boy was smart. So,
failing because he was thinking in a million ways.
He was thinking a million ways. So, but they mocked him a lot. And then all of a sudden now he was like the number one in class. And I think they associated it to me, like, oh yeah, he's chilling with a new boy and blah, 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 But if you ask me, I'd probably say like, I didn't do nothing. I just made him free. I gave him an environment to express himself. But I poisoned him with my, with my way of thinking, to the point where like
questioning the purpose.
Yeah, the school thing system.
Right.
We used to miss classes, go video games, literally like before the junior high grade 9 classes exams, we were playing video games so bad, so much so that we would skip classes, come out in the morning, change uniforms, get into clothes, go to a video game arcade, play the whole day, all the transport money, play it, come back home, sit, do that for like maybe weeks.
Wow.
Maybe 3 days in a week, maybe. Okay, we never used to miss school so much, but we used to do like maybe three days in a week. Meaning you only go to school twice. At a Friday, maybe on a Monday, because Monday the teacher would come to like check on the registry and everything. Then on a Friday, you want to know what they learned. So that's why like, we need to just go on Friday. On Friday, we can catch up with everything for the week. So that if any questions happen on a Monday, we'll be smart. We used to do it. And then exams came. Man, the passing rate was just so high, but we went to different schools. And for me, school became terrible. Like I thought the whole purpose of this was to find team. Anyway, just chilling with him made me test teams. It's like how much we could do together, So 10th grade, first year of high school, I never attended any class. Never. Yeah, the grade 10. I never attended grade 10. I was going to the video arcade. School was boring. I probably showed up maybe the first day just to look at the class, to look at the people in the class.
To know the class you belong to.
To the class I belong to. After that, it's like, I'll come catch up later. Later became later. Before I knew it, the whole year had gone. I bought myself a red marker, red pen, mark myself. I went to school maybe to just go and peep on the teacher's handwriting. Just peep on it and I would replicate it in my books. I would mark myself. I used to like meet one of the guys later after the school, say, what did you learn? Copy everything from their book, write some wrong answers, write some correct answers, mark myself, just in case my parents ask me, like, let's see your books, and which started happening later on. Let's see what you wrote. Let's see what you learned. Probably they started suspecting or something like that. I think there was a time maybe they went to school and they didn't find me. Yeah, and then it was like, no, I wasn't feeling too well. But they were too busy to catch me, so.
What happened like during the first and second and third term
exams? I passed. I used to show up. I used to read. Exams, yeah. I used to read when I go back home. It's like, okay, this is what they're learning. Okay, this is what they're learning. Da-da-da. The only subjects I failed was Bemba. No, I didn't have Bemba that time. Yeah, I did. I did have Bemba. I failed Bemba. And it was understandable because my parents be like, yeah, these subjects, nah. Local language, nah. At least you passed English. So I used to pass. I used to study. Week before the exams, I hold the books, flip, copy the whole book overnight, study, pass, I forget. Continue. Video games. And I learned something in the video game. I was able to be me, to express myself. So my ability is heightened. Oh, I was also going to video games because it was near my best friend's school. So I used to go recruit him from his class. Let's go. What are you doing here? I used to do that. Sometimes I would even attend. He would say no, I would attend their school.
Wow.
So I'd be in their classroom in a different school. Seated, because we used to have almost like the same uniform, so I just take out the tie. Or sometimes I'd put on a jersey to not show the emblem. Yeah, but the ties was the same. And I would sit in the classroom and the teacher would teach and the guys around there, they were crazy. Like, who's this guy? He would say, I know he's from the other class. Yeah, I did that. That was called Masala High School. I used to attend that class, just so that at break time, sneak out, go play video game. But unfortunately, he also abandoned me. He said, no, I can't do this no more. It's like, I guess so. I'm asking too much from you.
Were you enabling him though? Like, catch up, Friday?
Yeah, I told him everything. I told him the tactics. This was like get away from being caught. But he had new friends and his friends were like serious about school. We just crossed paths and went opposite ways. It's like, it's fine, cool. And he started laughing at me later on, mocking me, telling people about me. Like, he's crazy, he's gonna fail. He doesn't know that grade 10 is so crucial. It's like, wow, unbeliever. That was me. It's like, wow, you're an unbeliever, Yeah, but he laughed at me and his friends laughed at me. We used to also play football later on in the day together, so they used to laugh at me a lot, say a lot of bad things about me. So for me, this thing went on until 11th grade, second term. So I just continued. But 11th grade, I started showing up in class because like I had like tension started building up. So I used to just show up and, be around, make sure I register myself in certain places and then, run away. But my classmates used to laugh at me. Who's this guy? Is he a new guy? And those who knew me were like, this guy is crazy. This guy is part of your class. But I wasn't the only one though. There was also this other guy who was like dealing with like weed. Okay, he used to show up. He was in a school premises, Yeah, so for me, they were like, who's this guy? He's part of our class. They laughed. What happened? I was like, I've had cancer. And they're like, oh, sorry. They all stopped laughing. It's like, yeah.
It was this situation of cancer now. It was sensitive.
It was sensitive. I had cancer, so I couldn't attend. It's not funny. I got away with it. Yeah, even the teacher, I think one of them reported me as like, no, I had cancer. I knew the system so much. I knew the protocol that the teacher would go through. What about your parents? Can I talk to your parents? My parents are in Lusaka. I stay with my grandma. Like, I had stories. I was like a big liar with a lot of stories. I was Jim Carrey, So I got away with it. And
that's because you were spending so much time socializing.
Yeah, I spent so much time socializing, but I also used to spend time with teachers. So I'd ask teachers, so when is the exam starting? Blah, blah, blah. I was the smartest kid, but the most absent.
Right.
So I'll show up when I meet a teacher, so physics, tell me about it. Actually, during exams, like when exams are coming, I would ask the teacher what he thinks I should study. And they won't lie to you. Of course, they won't tell you, but they're the ones preparing the exam. So psychologically, they can't hide that from you.
Because they want you to pass.
They want you to
attach to their own portfolio.
Exactly. So I knew all of that. I knew portfolio. I knew everything.
Oh.
I just pushed them. It's like, yeah, I because I've been thinking, I've been studying a lot, but I want to dive in deep to really pass, man. Tickle them in the right places. They tell me some of the subjects that I should look for interest. They told me even how they make the exams, how they plot the exams, how they, come up with the exams and everything. I knew all of that. But anyway, 11th grade, I started going to school a lot more often. It wasn't full time. Whenever I saw a lip open, when it was boring, I just jumped the fence and I went. Or later on, in like the third term, I decided to be a prefect so that I could just walk out of the gate and nobody's going to ask me what. So
catch up.
Yeah. It's like there's some guys outside. Let me go and check them. That's it. I'm gone. And then it was also a good thing because then you can lie that I was in my prefect class,
Okay.
I was telling them stuff when in actual sense I didn't come to school. Everybody used to laugh. Yeah, but it's like, dude, it's my life. Do yours.
You had a grand time.
It was a grand time. I wish students could.
You're bright.
It made me very bright.